Good afternoon, folks. Good morning, those who are on the West Coast, and good evening to those who are maybe further into our Europe and other zones. My name is Francis Kelly, and I am happy to be the host of today's webinar for my great friends at Second Nature. Today, we're going to be talking about navigating MS4 stormwater challenges in 2024 and beyond. I was thinking about being a host today, and really, when we think about our goals and objectives, we wanted to really end the year here talking about some really cool things and really get engagement from you, the community, from our esteemed panel. So again, my name is Francis Kelly. I'm with Esri, and today I'm joined by the founder and president of Second Nature, Nicole, and then also my good friend and colleague, Adam, who will introduce themselves as we get started this morning. So Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, morning or good afternoon. My name's Nicole Beck, and I am the CEO and founder of Second Nature, and I'm a scientist by training. I've spent, about 20 years now collaborating with state and local government stormwater professionals like you all, and really excited to be here with you, Adam and Francis. So, having fun.
Adam?
Yeah, my name is Adam Carnow. I'm with Esri out of the Charlotte, North Carolina, Southeast U.S. regional office. I am the Public Works Industry Marketing Specialist and happy to support the work of Second Nature and all stormwater and other users of GIS technology.
Thanks so much, Nicole and Adam. There you have it. Today, we're here to talk about navigating MS4 challenges in 2024 and really beyond. And today, we're here to kind of set the stage for you in what will be your planning and actions for and in support of your stormwater program, and really matching up with and complying with the requirements that are out there. First and foremost, we really want to set the stage on all the different things that are just going around today, right? Those of you who are stormwater managers or who are responsible for your programs, you're seeing all this information. Too easy for flooding that brought New York to its knees. Atlanta swamped by flooding and swept away cars, inundated the Georgia Aquarium. Arizona limits their construction around Phoenix as water supply dwindles. And near record California heat is melting snow and triggering flooding. A lot of these issues really can be managed through, maintained, and worked on through a really strategic and practical stormwater program. So when we think about that, we really think about the trends that are kind of influencing your industry, our industry, as we look into 2024 and beyond. And that's really where we're going to take our journey today is first and foremost, there is a geospatial imperative. And then there's regulatory evolution that's happening. And then we also want to adapt and evolve and support that post-construction process. But really where we start is this concept, and with Adam and Nicole's help, this geospatial imperative. Stormwater GIS is now really a must-have, not a nice-to-have. So with that, Adam, could you take us on the start of that journey and talk to us a little bit about GIS for those folks who probably know a lot about it, maybe a little bit of a refresher, but those who are new, kind of give us a foundation.
Yeah, sure. So, location has mattered for a long time, and it's going to continue to matter even more into the future, especially when it comes to, cases like stormwater. Managing stormwater is a spatial exercise, and so GIS is the technology that allows to turn location information into insights that allows us to make better decisions. And there's 5 components of a GIS. So Francis, if you'll go ahead and walk us through those 5. So we start with the hardware. GIS can run on any hardware today, whether it's a personal computer, tablet, phone, servers on-prem, in the cloud, you name it. It runs on just about anything out there. And then on the software side, for ArcGIS, the main Esri product, there's 3 foundational pieces to that. There's Enterprise, which runs on servers. There's ArcGIS Online, which is SaaS or software as a service, so that's your cloud. And then ArcGIS Pro, which is your personal little GIS on your own computer. And then, of course, the fuel for GIS is data. And one of the really big benefits of a GIS is the ability to bring in just about any type of data into a geographic context and layer them on top of each other and see how they relate. So whether that's point line polygon vector data, raster data like aerial imagery, or 3D data as well. And then you've got the people involved, the users, the GIS professionals, IT folks, et cetera. And then there's a whole set of methods that over the decades has grown and grown and grown of ways to analyze the data and again, try to extract some insight from it. So all these 5 components work together to allow a GIS to do what it does.
I think, Adam, the most compelling thing to me is really at the top of the clock, if you will, at noon, is any device, anywhere, at any time to consume and really record data, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it really is about being able to kind of bring in all sorts of data into that GIS system.
Exactly, and in real time, because all those things can be connected. It will work disconnected as well, but the connectivity really allows you to see data in real time. All right, so yeah, Francis, if you could walk us through the first one here. So organizations use GIS as systems. A lot of people think that, the reason GIS exists is to make maps. And so that would fall under this system of record here. So it's a spatial database. It contains a lot of information, and that information is updated, and then people create maps with it. And so that's the entry into the GIS world, is you first have to create your system of record. And we're going to talk about that here today. But if you hit the button, please, for me, Francis, take me to the next one. Once we have that data in there, the real reason GIS exists is for the analytics side of things, is to be able to take that data that you spent all those hours and money on and maintaining and getting in and collecting in the system, and let's extract value out of that by creating insights into that, which allows us to make better decisions. But there's a third system here as well that a lot of people don't think about, and that's the system of engagement. And so GIS is really a wonderful tool for engaging other people, whether they be in your department, in other departments, in other agencies, or the public as well. And so people really understand things much better when they're on a map rather than a graph or a chart or a table. And so the ability for GIS to function as a system of engagement is really invaluable. So it's important to realize that once you stand up a GIS and get your data into it, that's just the beginning. You've got these other 2 systems ahead of you that are really going to deliver a ton more value than just a system of record. So it's important to realize not to stop right there. And so the reason we use GIS is to help us make better decisions and to solve problems. And there's lots of different ways that GIS can help you. It can help identify problems. So again, once you get your data in there and you maybe mash it up with some other data from agencies or people you work with or other departments, we're able to identify problems we didn't know we had. Next one. And we can also monitor change. So you can look at data over time and see how things are changing. This is really important for stormwater. But I'd like you to think about, what kind of problems are you dealing with and how can GIS help you? Let's go to the next one. And so manage and respond to events. So when there's a flood, GIS is front and center for understanding the impacts of that flood, for guiding the response to that, for planning and mitigating it before it happens, and then rerunning your response to it and learning from it and moving afterwards. It can perform forecasting, one of the most valuable benefits of a GIS. So we can predict floods based on once we've watered or modeled the watershed, and we can drop inches of rain on it and see what's going to flood there as well. Next one. It helps you set priorities. This is really important because you've got lots of different things to do, and you're always going to have to prioritize which ones get done first. This can be part of the equity piece. This can be part of your budgeting, lots of different ways, but the spatial component will really let you understand exactly where you need to do things first. And then the last one is understanding trends. So over time, we can see if things are getting better, things are getting worse, where that's happening, et cetera. So think about GIS not as a map-making program, but as a problem-solving solution, as a way to help you solve problems in your organization. And think about these 6 categories and how you're going to, which things are in these categories that you could really use help with. And that's where you need to focus.
And for those folks who might be new to GIS, as you're hearing from Adam today, we're going far beyond this concept of just dots on a map, right? We're looking at identification of issues, monitoring change, managing and responding to these events, kind of going from reactive to proactive, looking at that option of forecasting, setting your priorities, be they budgetary or otherwise, and then really at the end of the day, understanding and appreciating the trends that could come from all that great work that you've done. But that GIS is only part of the story, right? When we think about GIS being an input, Nicole, right, into the other parts of the picture here, that's where we start talking about this real value of exposing a real good geographic information system to help and aid with the compliance and really that foundation of science.
Yeah, thanks you guys. Yeah, stormwater GIS it's really a specialized application of GIS. So exactly right, Francis, bringing those three things together, GIS with science and compliance. And that opens up these insights, as Adam was saying, to be able to develop strategies and really think through the delivery of multiple benefits to your community. And I put this picture of my kids in a local river here because it represents to me the value of protecting the beneficial uses of our receiving waters. Right, that's it.
Well, I think the big thing here, Nicole, for myself as a parent, yourself as a parent, all the folks out there, is we are all downstream, right? This really matters, this GIS, this compliance and science for overall water quality, because literally we are all downstream, right?
Yeah, and lots of consumers, right? So not just the swimmers and the boaters, the fishermen, or those of us who consume fish, right? Those beneficial uses are invaluable. I come into this from the science side. I went to graduate school in an earth sciences department and came out with a PhD in water chemistry, and spent the next decade in collaborating with state and local government groups on how to develop decision support tools that help them leverage the data that they had and put that together into a system so that they could prioritize where to do their work and evaluate, right, communicate back the benefits of their work. And use data to understand kind of what works and what doesn't work, right? And actualize that adaptive management process. And over that journey, worked with a lot of different groups and a lot of different applications. And one of them, was stormwater departments, and gained a real appreciation for the level of data that is required for stormwater programs and stormwater managers like you all, what you have to keep track of to be able to comply with the regulations, and then obviously demonstrate that compliance. And through that journey, understanding that, if you take all of that data and organize it in a geospatial framework, sprinkle a little bit of science on top of it, all of a sudden, right, those insights start becoming more apparent. So that's stormwater GIS to me, and I think it takes this all a bit farther, right? It organizes your essential information. It'll streamline workflows that you are required to be able to achieve and demonstrate compliance. And then it provides that science-based analytics needed to manage stormwater as a resource. And
really, it was you guys, Nicole. Sorry for breaking in, but I remember us knowing each other for over 7 years now. When you entered our partnership program at Esri, it was really Second Nature who coined this term, this concept of stormwater and GIS together are kind of a really great better together story. And you really coined that term. We're really going this direction of stormwater GIS because we're going further, faster with the program, because we're really leveraging and having that foundation of a geographic information system.
Yeah, for sure. And then to your point, better together, what we're seeing with a lot of communities that are adopting stormwater GIS is now they can better communicate with transportation and the traffic department, right? And talk about where to put green streets that'll have the greatest multi-benefit, or go to Parks and Rec and understand how to, right, treat stormwater and increase greening in the city, or probably some of the more challenging conversations and strategies working with community development and economic development on. ways to uplift the disadvantaged neighborhoods within their communities. So lots of opportunities open up here, which is super exciting.
And the coolest thing that I think is really like that concept of that data and that collaboration with those other groups and those other departments that really come in and drive that conversation. So for those stormwater managers or those stormwater professionals who are on the call today, Adam, when we think about or even kind of scare ourselves into this concept of engaging with the leadership to deliver business value, you've done a lot of work in this space specifically for Esri around that kind of challenging management, challenging the status quo, and kind of giving us a best practice on how to engage leadership and get them bought in and onto the program.
Yeah, and this is a critical part of any successful GIS that a lot of people don't realize and don't, proactively, put a plan to. So it's important that you definitely engage leadership. And Francis, if you can go ahead and let's open up all four circles. It really is this simple. It's important to engage with leadership and get them to understand the value that GIS can deliver. Remember, you're there to help them, right? They need insight to make better decisions, and you're there to provide that. If you don't have a stormwater GIS right now, there's probably a blind spot there for them when it comes to understanding issues and making better data-driven decisions. This diagram explains the core mission of implementing any GIS. And you've got to research the goals of your organization, find the people in charge of meeting those goals, and then talk to them and understand the challenges that's keeping them from meeting those goals. And you then need to find some business-driven GIS solutions, like what Second Nature is doing, that help mitigate those challenges so they can reach their goals. And that's when you've delivered significant business value. And at the same time, you've garnered executive sponsorship while also improving the organization and the community. So it really is a win-win-win. And so, again, if you tell people you're there to help and you want to hear their challenges and help mitigate them, that's going to provide value. And if they experience that personally, that's going to elevate your value in the organization, et cetera, and the program.
And Adam, I think a lot of the times, my good friend Chris Capelli had told me a long time ago, selling isn't telling, right? And this is a lot about being able to sell the capabilities and the concepts. And a lot of the times, as I said, selling isn't telling. Selling is asking questions. Hey, or what are the goals related to our stormwater program? How much funding are we bringing in? What are the challenges that we are currently reacting to that we'd rather be proactive with? What are the solutions we use today? And are those solutions maybe, paper and Excel spreadsheets? And really, do we need a better solution to really talk to that overall return on investment and that business value of GIS? And I think a lot of the times for you folks that are out there today, a lot of the time you think that selling is telling, when really selling is being curious, asking questions, and kind of putting together that solution that includes the components that are going to make that system a reality for both yourself and those constituents that are outside your organization, but also the leadership within. And this also helps us with some coordination activity, right? I mean, you get a good GIS system, a good system of record, good system of insight, and a good system of action. Then we kind of can look at coordination, right, Adam and Nicole?
And so, once you enable your stormwater group with GIS, you now can enter the GIS realm. And the stormwater issues cover all these different departments, and probably some I don't even have on this slide, right? They're all probably already using GIS and have been for years, maybe even decades. And so they're already in the digital world. They're already sharing information. They're already collaborating and coordinating and working together. Once you enter this realm, you can then start to see their data with your data and vice versa, work with them much more pointedly and focused. And so this is really where it tends to have a multiplier effect, a force multiplier, where one department using it plus another department using it is not 1 + 1, it's 1 + 1 + 1. So as soon as you start working together, you really make big efforts and movements forward in mitigating some of these challenges. And if you were going to look at this list of departments here and think about, well, which one of those should I talk with first? I would suggest, one of the biggest ones you can talk to is over in community development planners. So if you go to the next slide, Francis, what planners do, the land use changes, that really or dramatically affect how stormwater system functions. So there's multiple ways that planners can assist. So I found this list of zoning techniques on the EPA website. I'm a planner. I have a planning background, so I understand pretty much all of these. But for those that don't, that's okay. Just know that planners want to do good planning. Developers want to do good planning. The community needs it, and so interacting with planners and showing them where the issues are related to stormwater. They've got a whole menu here of tools that are proven and recommended by the EPA on the ways that planners can work together with stormwater professionals to make better plans and help mitigate these challenges in the stormwater realm.
And that's really when we talk about the 2024 and beyond, right? Because the planning department's looking, 5, 10, 15, 20 years out in their planning and zoning requirements and building those comprehensive plans. And really, if you think about future proofing your stormwater strategy, it's really the planning and zoning folks who are going to be a good connector for you in the organization, and folks who can really kind of help in that vision that you have in future proofing your own strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the stormwater managers, right? You know the most about stormwater in your community. So being able to participate in the planning process, like Adam said, it's a win-win-win all the way around. And one of the things that Stormwater GIS does is it unlocks watershed planning. I think we hear this over and over as stormwater professionals manage stormwater on a watershed scale. Stormwater GIS operationalizes that and makes it real. You can think about a specific area in your city, or putting in a structural control measure or structural BMP, and having insight as to the actual details of the drainage area that contribute to that asset at the site scale, and use that to adapt the design characteristics and understand its performance. You can go and then take that site scale or catchment data and think about now the area in your municipality that drains to those regulated receiving waters, right? Some of those are 303 delisted and they have TMDLs on them, and be able to articulate your contributions to that local waterway. And the map that I'm showing here is a pollutant prioritization where the darker areas have greater amount of stormwater pollution generation. So maybe your strategy is to focus on doing controls and uplift to reduce pollution as well as address localized flooding. You can articulate what your contributions are and the progress that you are making, your city and community are making, to reduce your impact to those listed waterways. And then aggregate the data. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, Francis.
No, I just love this slide so much because you kind of zoom out from that catchment, receiving, and the entire MS4 to kind of give that entire perspective of the interdependencies that your goals and your actions with the catchment are absolutely part of that entire program. So I just love the capture here. Sorry about that.
Oh, cool. No, yeah. And so, yeah, Stormwater GIS, it empowers you to see your jurisdiction as a system. And that opens up with lots and lots of opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so one of those, now I'm going to take a step back, and right, Stormwater GIS, as both Adam and Francis have been saying, it allows you to prioritize your efforts. And so I'm going to go now into those day-to-day, right, week-to-week minimum control measure tasks, and start thinking about, what if for municipal maintenance, for example. What if you have maps and dashboards to determine where catch basins need more frequent inspections and cleaning, and then use that information to think about and consider adjustments to your street sweeping program to control debris in those areas, is one example. I know there's a lot on the slide. You all will get the slides afterwards, so I'm just gonna hit on a few of them. Another one of the structural BMPs are the stormwater control measures. Right? What if you have a map of all of the existing public and private assets in your city, so you understand how much area is currently treated by existing structural controls and where that is, right? Think now back to that catchment scale strategies and understanding the hydrology and hydraulics to each one of those. The one that right at the bottom, education and outreach, like, that's the longest standing requirement in these permits. And so now imagine having the maps and the dashboards and the insights to be able to be more strategic about those engagement programs that are required to run, and perhaps targeting outreach and your technical support so that you can help resolve the chronic issues in your city that you have illuminated because you have the data to be able to highlight those challenges.
And when we think about public engagement, it really is the expectation is the reality of our constituents in the public. They want to know, on my street, it says, hey, this goes to a stream. I want to understand and appreciate what's happening in my neighborhood. So, and I don't want to do that by getting a mailer, and I don't want to do that by calling someone. Really, I want to have a website to go to provide me with all that information, where things are in my community, where I can be a part of the solution and not just part of the problem. When we kind of adopt a stream or something like that in Boulder, Colorado, and those structural BMP conditions, like that best management practice to ensure that you not only know the existence, but what the scoring is, and certainly ensuring that municipal maintenance is taken care of and really identified, and your team of teams can be responsible for and execute on those priorities for you. So really good stuff when you think about stormwater GIS, really providing that input into key decision making. So, and let's talk a little bit about a great customer of yours that had some of these challenges.
Yeah. Well, the city of Salinas has gone through a journey of adopting stormwater GIS, and now they are increasing the resiliency of their community. And Heidi Niggemeyer, my friend, who's the stormwater manager down in the city of Salinas, she is collaborating with the traffic and transportation departments and Parks and Rec, and has the attention of the elected leadership in the city and the support of the city manager. And together, that, kind of better together as a unit in the city, they're, focusing on bringing and uplifting their most disadvantaged communities by achieving those multi-benefits that we talked about at the beginning. So Heidi and I just did a webinar with the Esri environment team. We'll be sure to share that link, but it's a great story.
Yeah, and the data serves as a really great backdrop when we talk about combining those different layers of data, as Adam mentioned early on. You get to better and more actionable intelligence about your community, about where those wastewater, stormwater runoff things are happening, where those outfalls are taking place, and how you can remedy and really help those disadvantaged communities get better with the right approach, right? And for those of you who are on the call, I forgot to mention a little bit of housekeeping. When we have a few minutes left, we'll go into the chat and the Q&A and call on people and have some questions answered. So sorry I didn't talk to that prior. But now as we move into, we've talked about GIS and being that system of record, system of insight, and that system of engagement and action. We kind of move into this new place, both Adam and Nicole, where asset management practices now aren't kind of a nice to have. They're kind of a have to have, because they're being mandated, and that really comes into play for stormwater management, for their life cycle, for risk, for performance, for financial and compliance and reporting. But for some, asset management can be a really big, kind of a big statement. So let's take a couple minutes and talk about this concept of asset management as it becomes mandated. What can we do as Esri and as Second Nature with To Inform to help you with this, with these best practices? So let's start with the 3 steps you can take now. Adam, you want to take us on this journey?
Yeah, so here are 3 steps you can take right now to get started on this, on your asset registry, which is the first step here, right? We've got to create that system of record, right? And so the important thing to understand is you don't need to reinvent the wheel, okay? People have been applying GIS for this situation for decades, right? So people have made the pitfalls. People have spent the amount of time figuring out how to do this. So do not think that you've got to start with a blank sheet of paper or an empty whiteboard, right? You've got partners here with Esri. You've got partnership with Second Nature available to you. We've got subject matter experts. We've got software off the shelf you don't need to program or hire a developer for. We've got standard data models that you can take advantage of right away, just customize, right? So you can build off of their work. There's these standardized data schemas that have been designed to track the information that's required for regulatory compliance. That's one of the very important things. If you're going to be compliant, you need to have certain things in your report, which means your data has got to be there. So you've got to make sure that the schema that you're using any of the standard ones that are available out there. From Second Nature, Esri, they're going to have that information in it. But you can modify these to meet your needs. You can always add additional features if you want to, and track those, right? It's critical. One of the most important pieces here is the third one here, which is the data governance policy. This is easier than it's been, as ArcGIS. There's a lot of tools that can help you here. You can assign data access privileges specifically to each individual user or to groups if needed. It can automatically generate portions of your metadata. There are automated routines to check data quality. It's very easy to share data with others and provide open data, as well as abide by data privacy rules. So the bottom line is you want to make sure that data stewardship responsibilities are given to those that own the data, and then also be able to share that with others as needed. It's also important to provide feedback loops so that users can help identify ways to improve data quality. One of the things you see all the time is people are just like, I need to keep my data close because I don't trust it yet. It's not perfect. The data is never going to be perfect. And actually what you want to do is throw your data out there as early as you can and get as many eyeballs on it as possible, because the more people that are using it, and if you have the feedback mechanism in there, a little survey form or whatever it is, that they can just tell you what's wrong with it, the faster your data will get better. So adopt the standard schema, ensure that that schema includes the data needs and requirements for your compliance and other things you've got to do. And then lastly, create a documented data governance policy. And it doesn't need to be a huge effort for that data governance policy. It's really not as hard as it sounds.
And I really, really appreciate that comment of don't let perfect get in the way of better, right? Really exercise and share that data, because the more people who see that data, they're going to get informed. They're going to provide you some iterative approaches. So really, and the other thing about this 3 steps to take now, it's you're not taking these steps alone, right? We have commercial off-the-shelf software. We have standardized schemas. We have the tools and the community to really help you take these steps now. So you're really not taking that journey alone. You're actually taking that journey with a community, if you will. So let's talk a little bit about improving the quality of your asset registry over time. Kind of to my comment, don't let perfect get in the way of better, right, Nicole? We want to kind of say, hey, we've got something to start. It's kind of like being a runner, right? You start running, you get, you do slow runs, long runs, get some stretching in, and over time you just get better because of that consistency and because you're pulling in that asset information. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. And I think, exactly to your point, Francis, like the end goal is to create and maintain a single source of truth and have a clear understanding of what the finish line looks like. And then go for it, right? All of these programs that we're seeing cross country, they have disparate data everywhere. So now use that strategy that you've developed and centralize your existing data as best you can into that single geo database. And then be able to use maps and dashboards to be able to track your inventory status and the attribution progress, right? So understanding your progress towards that, end game and end goal, and take a step back and develop a strategy to understand and where are you going to fill your data gaps, and do that over time. It is a journey. It's not going to happen immediately, but with some good practices, you can really focus on improving the quality of your asset registry over time. And I think Adam's got a couple of key tips here for us.
Yeah, and so the ultimate thing is go digital. I mean, it's so frustrating to be a technology professional and to still see people using paper, right? Hello, everybody. It's 2023. There's really no excuse for ever using paper. We all have devices. Everybody has access to one of those, and the tools to use on those devices are really affordable and easy to deploy. Your focus should be to remove paper from the process completely. If you think about it, a PDF is essentially a digital piece of paper. So let's get rid of PDFs wherever possible as well. And the same goes for spreadsheets. Turn them into database tables or GIS data layers or data feeds or data services. And this also goes for third-party data. The external entities that are creating data that you need to bring into your system, they're using digital tools, but then they often deliver it as paper or a PDF. So they're taking away all of that value that they put into it. So many other departments like water and land records, they now require digital submittals in a GIS format that can easily and quickly be directly integrated into your GIS system of record. So they can help you understand how to do the same. And that's really one of the main goals here, is that you're going to build this GIS, you're going to need to bring in data from externally, create a standard, communicate that standard, incentivize it if need be, but get that digital data and put it right into the system and move on about your day. And, you know, last thing is, once your field workers are using GIS in the field, it's going to dramatically increase their efficiencies, as they can see elements of the entire system in relation to their location. So that would allow them on the fly to see what's around them and lets them figure out what other work can be done while they're in the area. So maybe while they're performing some maintenance tasks, they see an asset that's nearby that needs to be inspected. They pop over there, they take care of it right then and there and move on about their day, right? So having that spatial awareness in the field provides a lot more efficiencies and gets the data. And then if your connectivity is there, people back in the office are seeing this data live. So it's one true real-time data source that everybody's working off of. You don't have to worry about what version you have and whether or not it's been updated. So this piece, this mobile piece, and digitizing it is a quick and easy way to bring a lot of return on investment with any GIS, but especially with some.
And absolutely, it resolves those islands of information, right? That you're kind of capturing things, and like you said, Adam, if you're capturing things on paper, you've just created an island of information that really doesn't have any digital kind of timestamp to it. So really, that removal and evolution from paper to what everybody has, the device in their hands that can take a picture, that's GPS available and can take that, and then really mandating that third-party data just meet your expectations and your data standards, and then make it a little bit easier for the ability to fill in those gaps. And that demand, if you will, from Adam, that wish for his Christmas list this year is go digital in 2024, facilitate and grow your efficiency by empowering your field workers with a device in their hand to capture that moment, to capture that challenge, and to really make the most of their day and the most of their data and your program, right? At the end of the day, you really want to have that, you want to have that digital wish to create this outcome of asset lifecycle management, right? Because you want to build that foundation by taking that asset, recording its current state, snapping any photo, looking at that date time continuum, and start down this path, right, Adam? As we look at that foundation for asset lifecycle management.
Yeah, I mean, I always come at this from the viewpoint of the taxpayer, right? Like, I'm a taxpayer. I don't want my agencies who I'm funding using paper, right? I want them to make smart, data-driven decisions when it comes to assets. I mean, public agencies or agencies that own assets, they're entrusted by the public with keeping them functioning at a level for what they were designed for, right? And so it's important to remember that implementing a stormwater GIS to create digital workflows and increase compliance is not the end of the story. It's really the start of it. The ultimate goal is to use this as a stepping stone to implement an asset lifecycle management program. And the idea is that smart businesses are proactive, not reactive, right? We shouldn't have to wait for something to break before we go out there and replace it, right? We need to get ahead of the risk. We need to understand the life cycle, the level of service of our assets, and proactively plan for their maintenance and eventual replacement, and budget for that in a sustainable manner. And these assets are critical to the community, and they should be functioning according to their design to deliver those benefits. These assets have been entrusted to us, and it's up to us to fulfill that role to the best of our abilities. And the Stormwater GIS is a key part of making that a reality. I mean, many other industries have been doing this for decades, and they've laid the foundation and principles of modern asset lifecycle management that the Stormwater GIS is a key part of.
And that's the benefit to the Stormwater GIS manager today, right, Adam? That they can actually literally ride the wave of great organizations who have already done, enterprise asset management, and have the tools and the wherewithal and the rules and kind of that foundation that you're not really having to build. It's there for you, if you will, because it's been done in other parts of the local government, really.
Yeah, exactly.
And remember, folks, as Adam said, he's in Charlotte. I live in Boulder. Nicole's up in Santa Cruz. As taxpayers, if we heard the folks were using a pen and paper to record stormwater assets, we might be a little flummoxed at our local government. So make sure you plan ahead and start looking at those tools and technologies to really build that foundation for your asset lifecycle management program so you can understand what's out there, how is it doing, what's the age, and when do we have to either repair, replace, or remedy a situation or a solution. And really, when you think about at the end of the day, when you have that asset registry and that foundational those foundational components on the way, plan, do, check, adjust in your iterative stormwater practice, it really unlocks that asset improvement planning, right, Nicole? At the end of the day, you've got to plan ahead and say to your internal and external constituents, what's the spend, what's going on there as far as our asset management work.
Yeah, and this is what we're seeing in the MS4 permit requirements coming down from the EPA, right? Is like, and so now imagine addressing and building an asset improvement plan by which you're using a living asset registry. And you have better insight as to the distribution and the condition of your assets, so you know which ones are critical today, and then you can adjust your levels of service and understand how that's going to, when is the timing and how much will it cost to go from the current reactive state of, oh my gosh, we just had a massive storm and we've got sinkholes all over the place, to being able to be more proactive so that, right, we're able to replace and update our stormwater infrastructure more proactively. And the stormwater just industry in general really struggles with not having enough resources, right? Funding and financing is a big struggle, and I think this is one of the mechanisms by which that's going to open up those funds to be available to stormwater groups. And so, not only doing those 20-year plans and the 20-year funding strategies, but also having the capacity to know what to do next. What am I working on? 20 years is a long way away, but what do I do in the next 3 years? And how do I articulate, right, that need, the financial need, and what we get in return for that? And I think this is going to open up tons of opportunities for the stormwater industry.
Absolutely. And as you can see here on the hard assets, pipes and feet, we have some percent critical. We have some red zone here. And, as I always say, hey, the facts are friendly, even if they stink, right? We actually know what we're working with instead of reacting to it, as I talked about earlier on in the webinar today. Is like, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on with flooding, with mitigation, and these storms and these things keep happening, right? So it's a continuum of that behavior, and you want to make sure that your asset improvement planning is robust and can be shared, really at a moment's notice, so those who are responsible for that new budget and for those new plans can actually see what's critical, what's not so critical, and what is kind of the long term. So 20 years is a long time, but gosh, it comes up quick. So make sure you realize and reflect on that asset improvement planning. So we kind of set the stage here for kind of this post-construction. So we talked about GIS and stormwater GIS, and we talked about this asset management becoming really mandated and coming down from the EPA, and really reconciling for those of you on the call today that remove that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because there's kind of a foundation that's been provided and momentum that is there for you to get to that GIS stormwater, improve your asset registry, move into digital, and then really start looking at this next phase. And that's really when we think about that post-construction, and really saying, hey, there's kind of this other part of the story that we can start to project, if you will, our good work upon, right? Nicole and Adam, as we look at post-construction, the work we've done ahead in our assets and our asset inventory, and understand that we now can kind of project that onto the larger concern, if you will, and that's this post-construction story. So
yeah, thanks, Francis. I'm in a position where I get to talk to stormwater managers across the country and, right, understand how to continue to iterate and improve and learn on how stormwater GIS can help them and where their biggest challenges are. And one of the things that we're hearing and seeing a lot is that for most programs, that post-construction compliance requirement is a pretty big risk. And it's a really, it's a it's a big ask of the local stormwater manager to manage the private post-construction programs. They're really complex. And we see, right, the challenges include paper records and siloed data and disjointed workflows and multiple stakeholders. And so if we think about the life cycle of a private, post-construction project, it starts in planning. And then it moves to design and it touches engineers. And then it goes to construction. And now we have contractors. And then those assets have to get certified. And then, right, you only just get more assets that are regulated, and you still have a responsibility as a stormwater manager to keep track of all of those. And so a lot of these disjointed workflows and multiple stakeholders, they rely in local agencies on a lot of institutional knowledge. And then kind of add insult to injury a little bit, right? Then the regulations continue to change and evolve. So it's a really challenging program for stormwater programs and managers. But the other thing that we're learning as we're working and helping these groups modernize these programs is that the stakes are pretty high, and that in the average MS4, the privately owned post-construction assets account for more than 80% of the total assets on the landscape. I mean, 80%, like that means that the post-construction regulations have been effective, and there's a significant investment from the private sector in stormwater in every community right now. So how do we turn that into an advantage for us, right? And an opportunity.
Yeah, this has been it was a big deal. I want to just say to the folks on the call today and who are joining us that when Nicole kind of surfaced this for Adam and I, it became this like, wow, this is a gamble. The stakes are super high, that you have more than 80% of your total stormwater structural controls in the landscape are in post-construction. And it really, as I mentioned earlier, it really comes down to the great work you do up front to kind of project onto this, right, Nicole? I mean, it's like projecting your best practice in your asset management and all the great work that you've done, and really coming to that 80%, that large thing that keeps us up at night as stormwater professionals, is this vital information and details that we need here.
Yeah. And there's anxiety around the post-construction programs for sure. And so one of the starting places is just organizing that vital information and details. And we've kind of learned over the years from all of you that, think about it in 4 buckets. The first is just those specific design requirements that are mandated by your permit, making sure that you can easily catalog and characterize how each project is actually meeting those requirements in your permit, and making sure you have that that information well organized. The second are the assets themselves. Where are they? What are they? And do you have the right information to be able to quantify their benefits when they're installed, and then use them as part of that watershed planning? And then the third are those contact details, right? I talked about all the different players that kind of come and go. And so being able to manage who they are and what information you need from them when, and what information they need from you, and being able to do that efficiently, it really and focus on those workflows, it really helps bring some efficiencies. And then the last bucket is files and photos. I mean, files are, right, everybody wants design plans or the maintenance agreements when you're on site. But we're learning more and more that the photo documentation for post-construction and construction, it's the stormwater manager's lifeline to have that kind of photographic evidence documented and organized. So if you get called into a litigation to represent your city against a developer, right, you have that evidence well documented. And we see, the regulators love to go and walk to point to a specific project and have the stormwater manager explain the compliance there. So that photo documentation becomes really, really key. And so as we're doing this, making sure that all of that data is accessible, it's queryable, and it's reportable to you or anybody else when you need it.
And this is, part and parcel. I say to folks all the time, I challenge you to be nowhere every one of these bullets has location, location, location enablement, right? You need the design requirements mandated by the permit. You need to know what, where, and how, and the benefits. You need to know who owns, and then really all the things that carry along in the event of any assessment or any, as you said, any regulator coming and saying, hey, I really need to dig deep on that, and making that data accessible anywhere at any time. So really, it feeds very well into this concept of having this good and maintained stormwater GIS. It really helps you with this post-construction challenge, right, Nicole? I mean, it really helps there.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, I just gave a few examples here, but I'll try to put a little bit more specifics, like that streamlining compliance and communications to contractors or owners, right? You can automatically generate letters with QR codes that now when they get that information, they can enter the data and give you the responses you need specifically to their project. And that then, right, allows the aggregation of that so you can have, real-time tracking of which responses have you received and which ones are still delinquent, right? And that now all of a sudden that's accessible to everybody, and that helps you. And then the automated summaries, whether you're presenting to city council or you're doing a presentation to the private development community, the maps, the charts, the tables, or obviously the annual reports you have to give to your regulator, or responding to audits, right? It automates that boring stuff and eliminates the headaches that are so much
Wait a
part
minute,
of post-construction.
Nicole, did I say automate the boring stuff? Because this is so cool that we can actually have a streamlined communication to a contractor or an owner or an owner to really have them read what our expectations are and input that data on their behalf. And then we can actually see who's who in the zoo as far as who's self-reporting and really, as I mentioned earlier, owning up to what we're projecting upon them. And then of course, the oldest requirement in the MS4 is public engagement and public sharing of your MS4 compliance in or out. So this concept of a stormwater GIS is not only helps and gets you through the boring stuff and all the headaches, but as you can see here, folks, the work's been done and it's here for you to kind of go ahead and start leveraging right away, right now, right? You don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel or start developing something from scratch, because we have commercial off-the-shelf software coupled with Esri's capabilities that can really bring this all to a head for your program and your constituents. So let's talk about these practical considerations for really getting that digitization done. Nicole, can you help us through these practical considerations?
Yeah, and I think there's 5 of them. The first and foremost is that, right, stormwater GIS, don't silo your post-construction program. Bring all of that together in that system, right? And document those processes and make sure that everybody in their role understands how, information is coming from planning to the stormwater groups and who you need information from and how they can best do their work. And try to eliminate some of that institutional knowledge and those workflows, because staff turnover has been pretty rampant recently across the country, certainly in stormwater programs. So reducing that risk of institutional knowledge will be super helpful. The number 3, kind of draw that line in the sand and apply that new digital process to all new projects that come into planning. Just keep those guys digital from the beginning and separate that from all of your existing projects that have either been delivered or in the process, and then organize those existing digital records and think about filling those gaps and what specific gap, what data do you need in there to best manage your program going forward. And there can be different ways to prioritize. Like one is just like, go and learn more and get more information about the assets of the largest drainage area in your city. Right? Those will have the biggest potential benefit to your community. The other might be go and asset or inventory and learn more about the specific assets that are in your areas that are prone to flooding and the areas that drain to those. Right? So now you have that information and the data available to you to make the strategic decisions and then fill those gaps over time. Again, it's a journey here.
And I really love that concept. I want to hone in on number 3, and I think that was a little bit of an aha moment for me. Was you can start capturing new projects digitally, right? And then improve your existing digital records. So some people are like, oh, where do I start? Do I have to go all the way back? Like, no, start today, start capturing new projects digitally, and then over time, not overnight, improve your existing digital record so they can kind of meet that expectation and fill in those data gaps over time. I really like those really practical considerations, especially that concept of capture those new projects still digitally, right? The starting line is here. Let's start today in empowering our field workers to go ahead and use the device in their hand and start kind of going. So, and then really we want to go ahead and tap into that potential, right, Nicole? At the end of the day, this is little things done very specifically or done intentionally that create this potential for a great system of systems approach. So let's talk about that tap that potential here.
Yeah, yeah, and I wanted to put this map here because it's like control the source a bit, right? And so this is a map, and I think this is pretty representative of any city, is that, again, the area, the majority of the stormwater that is generated comes from those privately owned lands. And then it is pushed, right? The municipality now has to deal with that through their MS4 system. And as we're, learned through the post-construction requirements and those being around for a few decades, that now 80% of the existing assets actually exist on private land. So there's a huge potential here, right, to effectively manage those private assets. And that'll hold the key to unlocking that unparalleled potential to transform your landscape and build that adaptive capacity for the changing climate that's coming. And like all of us, right, my cousin was just here with a little baby, and it's like, we had to crawl and then we had to walk before we could run. And so, right, starting with crawling and walking, we need to modernize the post-construction process, and it'll open up a ton of opportunities for us.
It really will. It all begins with that first step of modernization. And when we talk about like the trends, is it, we kind of end with the beginning in mind, right? That what are the big trends that, Adam and Nicole being being scientists and industry leaders here. Talk to me a little bit about these three that are influencing our industry and what we could be doing today and over the next couple of weeks as things slow down and we begin to put our plans together.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Aaron. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say on the geospatial imperative side of things is, if you're going to manage a spatially enabled system like stormwater, you really can't do it any other way than with GIS, right? So it is a must-have. It is a requirement in order for you to work efficiently, in order for you to be compliant with the permits and the regulations. Trying to do that with paper is like trying to do it blindfolded and with one hand strapped behind your back. I mean, and so the entry level to this is not like it used to be. It's very affordable. It's very easy to do. It's very quick to get in place and get going and running. So
yeah,
use the tools that are out there and available to you in the community.
And Nicole, on regulatory evolution, when you think about the shift towards stormwater asset management, that evolution is really kind of waking up the stormwater industry as a whole, saying, "Oh wow, this is being mandated." So really, we need to shift toward that asset management and carry the momentum from the folks who've been doing asset management. You got your public works department; those folks are probably the ace of base, if you will, at identifying and scoring their assets. So remember, you do have a community around you to help with that regulatory evolution that will, as I mentioned earlier, it will project and adapt into tomorrow, right? So you can modernize that post-construction process with the homework you've done up front in your asset registry and your asset management system and your identification and scoring of those assets. So with a minute and a half left, we wanted to really provide you with a challenge, right, Nicole and Adam? We wanted to make sure that with the community that's here with us today is that, as you go into the Christmas holiday season and make your wish list for your senior management, it's going to comprise of maybe a couple of iPads, some iPhones, some new field apps to take that leap into 2024 and beyond. Let's talk about this call to action.
Yeah, so now's the time to get started. I know that you guys have nothing to do and are looking for a new project to take on and have plenty of time. Wrong, right? But it doesn't matter. You've got to prioritize this. The quote at the bottom there is great from Alan Cohen, that now is the perfect time to begin. So make time, make an effort to start this off. Use partnerships like Esri and Second Nature. Don't try to do this on your own. but embrace this digital workflows. It will help you streamline compliance and then set you up to be able to go from reactive to proactive and actually the start of a journey towards a full asset lifecycle program, which is, again, where we need to be. We're entrusted with this infrastructure. We've got to maintain it well and financially smart if it's going to serve the community the way it should.
And that's very, very well said. And at the end of the day here, beginning makes those conditions perfect, as we've said. So please do reach out to us if you have any questions or feedback on today. We will get to the questions and reach out proactively to folks. Nicole, Adam, thank you so much for your time. For all of you on the phone today, thanks so much for joining us. Please do reach out with any questions, comments, concerns, or next steps and actions you'd like to take with the help of Second Nature, because we can take a look at your MS4 permit today, go ahead and work down it with you and see what kind of advancements we can make for you in support of your program, your constituents, and the community at large. With that, Nicole, Adam, thank you again so much for your time. All of you out there, thanks so much for taking an hour out of your day to join us, and make it a good day. We really appreciate your time. Thanks again.